The site that I use to find these figures is... What's up, everybody? This is your boy Claytron, and today we're going to be looking at first week sales numbers for albums released on March 1st in the hard rock and metal sphere. The site that I use to find these figures is metalinsider.net. They have a great weekly column called Metal by Numbers, where they basically round up all the hard rock and metal releases for a given week, and they put them into a nice little package and release it every Wednesday. So this is usually where I go just to get a quick summary of the albums that came out last week, and it's great. It's great. I love it. You guys should check it out if you're interested in these kinds of things. Here we go. This is March 1st, albums that were released on March 1st. So first we have two releases by the band Demon Hunter, which is like that Christian metal band that's been around, I think, like 15-20 years now, maybe 20 plus. They put out two albums last week, I guess. It's not quite a double album, but it's two separate albums that they put out in 1 week. So they're called War and Peace. Makes a lot of sense, especially for a Christian band. War sold 11,975 copies, and Peace sold 11,500 copies. And these are just traditional album sales figures. This is not the sales plus streaming. So this is just actual album sales figures. So War debuted at number 7 on the Billboard charts, and Peace debuted at number 8. So I guess people like War more than they like Peace, which is bad news for Demon Hunter. They have a combined sales total of 23,475 between the two records, but I can probably guess that there are a lot of fans that bought both of them. I don't necessarily think it was like one person that chose one over the other. I think that a lot of people probably bought both together. So most people probably treated it as a double album. If you count both of the sales figures together at 23,000, it's technically their best sales week ever. But if you break them apart per album, which is what I would probably tend to do, it's not that great. Demon Hunter has always consistently surprised me with how consistent their sales figures are whenever they put out a record. It's totally nuts. Like, they always sell in basically the 12 to 20,000 range. Their last record actually posted their highest sales week number ever for a single album anyway, and they sold 19,000. I believe the album was called Outlive. Don't quote me on that though. Going from 19,000 to 12,000 usually would be a cause for concern, but because it's two separate albums, both of which debuted with roughly 12,000 copies, Demon Hunter's still doing pretty well, so I'll give him that. Go Demon Hunter. Christian metal is still alive. Next we have Queensryche, The Verdict, which sold 8,100 copies this week to debut at number 14. 8,100 copies is all right. For Queensryche, I would have expected more. I know this record had problems with, I think it wasn't an Indiegogo campaign they launched, but it was some other website that recently just like filed for bankruptcy, or they're getting bought out by somebody. Basically, they spent all the money that people were spending on different campaigns for perks and stuff like that. The company spent all the money on like operating costs and things like that. And so now all the people that spent their money to like with different bands like Queensryche, they're not getting the stuff they paid for, and it's the company's fault. So Queensryche basically came out and said, hey, if you bought any sort of album bundle or t-shirt or anything through this fundraising campaign company, you need to file a claim with your credit card and get your money back, because we never took your money, we don't have it, and we can't make the products now because the company never gave us the money to do so. Now, 8,100 copies. Like I said, not great for Queensryche, not a band of that status and that longevity in the music industry. I think their last album sold, let's find out. Their last album sold 13,800 copies to land at number 27 on the Billboard chart. So 13,800 obviously is a much bigger number than 8,100. Both albums are on Century Media. You know, I mean, obviously record sales are in the shits and they're consistently going down, but their last album they put out in 2015, so it's 3.5 years since Queensryche put out their last record. I mean, I see Queensryche in the metal blogosphere a lot. I see a lot of articles about them on Blabbermouth anytime they do anything. I mean, they're pretty significant in the hard rock and metal world still. So I don't know. I haven't heard any of the songs off of this album, but I hadn't heard any of the songs off of their last record either. So I can't really explain why they've seen such a significant drop. Sorry, Queensryche. Maybe the record just isn't very good. Okay, so next we have In Flames, which is I, the Mask. Debuted at number 17 with 6,525 copies, and continuing the trend of selling less than the previous record but charting higher. This record charted at number 17, like I just said. But Battles, their previous record, Battles debuted at number 23 with 8,650 copies, and that was In Flames' 12th album. So let's go back a little bit further to Siren Charms, their 11th album, and that record sold 9,050. So they went from 9,000 to 8,650, and now they're at 6,500. In Flames, obviously being one of like the big three of the mellow death bands that made that genre popular from Scandinavia, from Sweden, from Gothenburg. In Flames is the only one out of the three between At the Gates, Dark Tranquillity, and themselves that has made any sort of effort to push into the mainstream. And I don't feel like this was a good idea for them. The level of dedication that melodic death metal fans have, myself being one of them, In Flames has sort of tried to break into like the American rock radio market. They signed to 11-7 Music, which has like Escape the Fate on the roster. They had Hell Yeah on the roster. The management company that does a lot of work with 11-7 manages like Five Finger Death Punch, and I know that 6 AM is on the label. Motley Crue is managed by them, I think. They're very much in the modern American rock radio market, like the hard rock market, and In Flames is trying to align themselves very closely with these companies. And their songwriting, I think, reflects that. Their songwriting is getting a lot more traditional song structure oriented. It's getting a lot less death metal or melodic death metal. It's getting a lot more rock. I think they're doing themselves a great disservice. I don't think it's going to work for them very well in the United States. I think that these sales numbers reflect that. I think if they went back and they did a more traditional melodic death metal record, then it would sell a lot better, and they would probably gain a lot of those fans back, because heavy metal fans are brutal and they don't like it when you change. More power to them. I hope that it works out for them, but I don't think it will, and I think that this number is a good reflection of that. So, and then Mark Morton's debut we have next. Anesthetic debuted at number 22 with 4,350 copies. Debuted within the top 25. Great, only 4,000 copies. Not bad. I would have expected, with the success of the single Cross Off with Chester Bennington, that song's gotten a lot of really, really good press, obviously because Chester passed away last year, or actually 2 years ago now, almost 2 years ago. I think 4,300 copies is pretty solid. A lot of metal bands would kill for those numbers, and for him to do that with his first solo record is great. So let me retract my statement. I think that this is a pretty solid number, considering it's his first solo record, and he's the guitar player from Lamb of God. Good for you, Mark Morton. While She Sleeps is next, with the album So What on Spine Farm Records, debuted at number 102 with 1,300 copies. Now, I was a very, very big fan of While She Sleeps' previous record, You Are We. I loved it. I thought it was a great mix of like modern metal, sort of metalcore-y, but it really reminded me of like the new wave of American heavy metal in a lot of ways. I thought it was a very, very strong record. All the songs were great. The song they had, Silent Speaks with Ali from Bring Me the Horizon, amazing track. That was the song that really made me get into them. They have great riffs. They're really, really talented guys. Having said that, I haven't heard any song off of their new record. I mean, maybe once I heard a single they put out that was advertised on like Lamb Goat or Metal Sucks or something like that, but it didn't strike me in the way that the last record did. Their last record debuted at number 69 with 2,475 copies, so basically they cut their sales in half with this new record in the States. Moving right along, next album is Devil Master. Never heard of them. Satan Spits on Children of Light. Fantastic name for a record. Debuted at number 114, 1,125 copies, and it's their debut album on Relapse Records. Wow. Debut album selling 1,000 copies, over 1,000 copies? That's good for any band. Good for you guys. Next record, Pissgrave, Posthumous Humiliation on Profound Lore. Debuted at number 150 with 840 copies sold. Pretty good. 840 copies sold. It's their second studio album. Also pretty good for a second studio album. 840 copies, especially for a band with a name like Pissgrave. And their album cover, I'll put somewhere up over here, looks pretty gnarly. Next is Traitors, the band that, like, deathcore band, the new, like, super beatdowny band that they were one of the first bands to really, like, usher in this new era of, like, deathcore, like, super brutal, heavy, bro down breakdowns. Their new album's called Repent, debuted at number 175 with 740 copies sold. I want to say their last record debuted higher, and I want to say it sold more. Next is Darkwater, also never heard of them, with their album called Human, like the Death album. 320 sold. Band's first album since 2010. 320 copies. It's Notable sales. So we're done with the debuts for this week. Now we're in the notable sales section. Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody is at number 4 this week with 16,425 copies sold. With a 47% drop. I want to say it sold close to like 30,000 last week. So Bohemian Rhapsody's still in theaters, I learned last night, actually. So, God, I don't even know how long it's been in theaters now. I think it's like running on 3 months or something. Good for them. Good for Queen. They're making a lot of money. Good for the label. Good for the movie industry. It's a great movie. Go see it if you haven't. Dream Theater, Distance Over Time. This is their second week now, so it debuted last week with almost 20,000 copies, and it dropped from number 5 to number 20. Now it's at 5,325 copies sold. 73% drop in week 2, but it's still in the top 20. Not great for Dream Theater. I would have expected better, but still not bad. Greta Van Fleet still has 2 albums on the charts right now. Anthem of the Peaceful Army sold 3,350 copies at number 32 on the charts. And then they also have their From the Fires EP that won that Grammy at number 58 with 2,400 copies sold. Now, Greta Van Fleet, it continues to surprise me with how long their records are staying on the charts and how popular they are, and how I just looked at like the Billboard box score, which tallies concert ticket sales and concerts, like specific concerts. It's kind of like the Billboard 200 but for concerts. And I saw that Greta Van Fleet just sold out like an 8,400 capacity arena in the States somewhere, and it like blew my mind. I had no idea they were that big, that they were such a large force. I'm kind of torn on them. I know a lot of people hate them, a lot of people love them. I respect any artist that sort of creates that division and that derision, so I wish them the best. If they can pull some fans in that aren't normally fans of rock music, and they can parlay that into other bands getting some new fans out of it, then go for it. Greta Van Fleet, they're young kids. I know they got a big major label behind them, but they wouldn't be big if their songs weren't good at a foundational level. So more power to them. I wish them the best. I hope they can bring some new fans into the genre. Alright, so I think I'm going to stop it there for this video. We did all the debuts. I did a couple notable sales from this week. And yeah, I'm working on my next first week album sales history video. Should be up sometime next week, but I wanted to keep the content stream flowing, and I figured I could do this one pretty fast. So thank you for watching, and I will see you very soon. They round up basically all the first week's